Unfamiliar Technology by Windrider. This is weird. The Grey Pegasus had no other words for this thing. She had looked it over from all angles, 2 angles at a time in fact, and still had no idea what it was. The thing on the ground was flat and square, but somehow it was also round. It was black, but also shiny. She couldn't figure out what it was, so she just settled on describing it. It was weird. The only thing she recognized about this thing was the bright silver apple on its surface. That's when the thought clicked in her head. It must be food, she thought. So, as any pony would when they found a shiny apple just lying on the ground at their feet, she bit it. Okay, so biting it was a bad idea. Biting it hurt. Then, as she thought about it more, she considered the possibility that it was hard candy. It only took one lick to discover that it was also not the case. It didn't taste bad, but it didn't taste good either. Come to think of it, it really didn't have a flavor. So she sat there, looking at the rounded shiny box with an apple on it. She couldn't just leave it there in the middle of the street. Some pony might chip a tooth, doing exactly what she did. After much thought, or at least what seemed like much thought, she settled on taking it to the library. Twilight was smart. She'd know what to do. Besides, that was the next stop on her mail route anyway. "Ow!" cried the purple unicorn at the door. "Careful, Miss Doo!" "Sorry, Twilight. I just don't know what went wrong." "I do," thought the purple mare, but she didn't say it audibly. "You know you can just leave the mail in the mailbox, right?" "I know," answered the grey male pony. "I just have a question to ask." "Oh, okay. What is it?" "That's what I came to ask you. I don't know what it is." "No, Ditzy Doo. I meant, what is your question?" "Oh, okay. What is it?" The unicorn responded with a puzzled look. "What is what?" "This black thing." Still no comprehension. "What black thing, Ditzy?" The Pegasus stopped hovering over Twilight Sparkle's doorstep and stuffed her head into the muffin-embroidered mailbag. When she pulled her head out, she had the strange black thing in her mouth. I'd like to say she handed it over to Twilight, but that's not what happened. Twilight wrapped the black object in a magenta haze like the one around her horn and floated it over to a table. "Please, come in, Miss Doo." "You can just call me Derpy. It's more fun, and I don't mind," offered the Grey Pegasus, in a voice rather fitting of that title. "Alright then, Derpy. I can't tell you what it does yet, but this indentation seems to be a button." Twilight gestured to a small crater in the face of the object. Derpy wondered where the apple symbol had disappeared to. It took her only slightly longer than most ponies to figure out that Twilight had turned the shiny box over. Why hadn't she thought of this herself? Too late to worry now. "Are you going to press it?" "We should look at other options. I said it seems to be a button." "Only one way to find out," announced Derpy, just before mashing her face into the shiny black box. Suddenly, a picture of an arrow appeared near the button, with the word, "Slide to unlock." "What does it mean by slide to unlock?" asked Twilight Sparkle. "Slide what? And what does it unlock? Is this thing a key? Or is this thing a container?" "Maybe it means slide the container/key, suggested the local mailmare as she slid the device across the table in the direction shown by the arrow. In the process, her hoof slipped and slid the arrow itself across the face of the object. Suddenly, more pictures appeared on the object. No, Twilight decided that this was clearly a device. More pictures popped up on the device's face. Each picture had words that accompanied it. Twilight read them aloud. "Settings, weather, music, maps, YouTube, Facebook, and Angry Birds." I have no idea what a YouTube or a Facebook are, but I'm really confused about this Angry Birds thing. I have so many questions. "Calm down, Twilight," she said to herself. "We just have to do this scientifically. I'll just make a list of questions." She turned to a small purple dragon sleeping in the corner and called, "Spike, wake up! We have work to do, and I need your help." Whined the dragon drowsily. "But I was in the middle of a dream about About no one in particular. What do you need? Grab a pen and parchment. We're making a list. Derpy, I know you've got mail duties, but I'd like you to come back here when you've finished. You know more about this thing than I do. Can do, Twilight. I'll be back as soon as I deliver all the mail. 'Cause it's my job to deliver mail. I'm a mailmare, even though my cutie mark is Bubbles. Why do I have Bubbles? Ooh, maybe it's bubble wrap. Bubble wrap goes in the mail, but so does packing peanuts. Why don't I have packing peanuts? Maybe it's— Just go! Shouted Twilight, and off she went. By the time Derpy returned, it was nearly noon, and Twilight was nearing the end of her list. Question 47. What birds are angry? Question 48. Why are the birds being kept behind the glass? Question 49. Why are the birds angry? I guess we'll end on a nice round number. Question 50. Are the birds being kept behind the glass because they are angry, or are they angry because they are being held behind glass? I've got an idea, announced Derpy proudly. Maybe they're angry because some mean green pig stole their eggs to make an omelette for their evil pig king. A wonderful thought, Derpy, but it really doesn't make sense, said Twilight politely, like a teacher to a child eating glue. Okay, wait, I've got a question. What happens when you hold the button instead of just pressing it? Spike looked over the list and informed Derpy that Twilight had already asked that question. Question 17. Oh, alright. And Twilight, what's it called when you do something to find the answer to a question? Do you mean an experiment? Yes, she shouted. Then, without warning, she smashed her face into the table, pressing the button with her nose. Derpy, what are you doing? Experimentation, Derpy mumbled through a mouthful of table. Twilight was beginning to reconsider asking Derpy's help when the black device did something entirely unexpected. It spoke to her. How can I help you? Hello? Can I ask you a question? Ask me anything. Well, what are you? I am Siri. I am a personal assistant programmed into your Apple iPhone 4S. Spike started scribbling notes at the bottom of the list and checking off questions. Twilight began to analyze that answer. From it and a couple of further questions, she figured out that the thing on the table was called an iPhone, and that Siri was a pony talking to her from inside it. After further questioning the pony and the iPhone, Twilight had come to the conclusion that it was not a box for holding maps and weather and irate birds. The thing was more like a picture frame with a picture that could be changed with other pictures just by touching the glass. She went on to discover that the device was also capable of capturing pictures like a camera, but without film. Derpy suddenly got the idea to test its knowledge by asking it about things other than itself. What time is it? Asked the grey and blonde mailmare. My clock says that the time is 12:47 in the afternoon. Who are you? I don't know. What's my name? Lauren. Twilight's eyes suddenly lit up with realization. Derpy, you're a genius, she proclaimed. Siri, what's my name? I just told you. Lauren. Alright, Siri. Where do I live? I can't answer that. Darn. Well, that didn't work. Twilight turned and asked, well, any other ideas? Derpy sat on her haunches a moment and tapped her forehead with her hoof in thought. Suddenly, her face lit up with inspiration. She jumped onto her feet and once again lunged face first into the Apple product. She was airborne and speeding to her target before she was brought to a halt by a shroud of purple haze. Twilight set her back onto the floor gently, but held her in place. No more experimenting. Use your words. Twi, I'm disabled, not a child. Very well. I'm sorry. What was your idea? Derpy dropped back onto her haunches and assumed the thinking position once more. After a short time, she lit up once more and jumped to her feet. Twilight prepared to pick her up, but Derpy stopped and once more returned to sitting. This time, she raised her hands like a little school filly, giving Twilight a look that she assumed to be offensive, but with one eye simultaneously watching the carpet, she wasn't sure. Yes, Derpy? What was your idea? Oh, wait, it's not quite an idea. I just wanted to touch the mad birds thingy. Spike looked up from his note-taking and at the purple unicorn standing between Derpy and the phone. Let her do it. I'm curious too. Besides, what's the worst that can happen? Twilight begrudgingly stepped aside. Derpy approached the device on the table, this time slowly, afraid of Twilight would put her back onto the carpet and start everything over. She looked at the phone and was only mildly discouraged by the fact that it had gone dark. Hello? She called. Siri? Wake up, Siri! There was no response. Just do what I did earlier, instructed Ponyville's librarian. Derpy, to Twilight's dismay, did exactly that. She, for the third time since finding the phone, smashed her face into the table, depressing the button. When the arrow and its instructions appeared on screen, she pushed the phone across the table in the direction shown. But this time, it didn't start up. She turned to face Twilight Sparkle with a look of shame and ignorance that made the unicorn pity her. The pity was totally lost a second later. I just don't know what I did wrong. Touch the screen, Derpy. All compassion gone from the unicorn's voice. Were you paying attention at all when we were testing it earlier? I was thinking about birds. Twilight opened her mouth to give a quip about bird brains, but thought better of it. She closed her mouth and mentioned for Derpy to go ahead. It took Derpy 3 tries to unlock the phone. Twilight observed that it wasn't entirely Derpy's fault. It was becoming more apparent that this thing was not meant to be used by ponies. Derpy got the phone to cooperate and arrived at the home menu. She reached out her hoof to open the app, as it's called, labeled Angry Birds, only to open the YouTube app by mistake. No, Twilight thought, not meant for ponies. The application had a number of images displayed, each one, according to Siri, corresponding to a motion picture. Under the title Suggestions was an image of 3 odd-looking creatures, not entirely dissimilar from the Cutie Mark Crusaders. A few creatures like hairless monkeys. And was that her brother and his fiancé? Before she could look further into the video of Shining Armor and Cadence, Derpy depressed the Home button and brought the phone back to its primary menu. This time, when Derpy attempted to open the Bird app, she succeeded in tapping her intended target. The application opened with a bit of sing-songy music and a flourish of color. Twilight watched over Derpy's shoulder as a series of pictures illustrated the prologue of the game. Omelette for the Pig King. I never would have guessed.